Welcome back to the School of Greatness. My name is Lewis Howes, and if you are looking to rewire your brain for success and abundance, this is for you. In this conversation, we are learning how to shift your mind to attract more abundance into your life today. And we have 3 powerful guest segments from some of the most favorite guests of the School of Greatness of all time. And our first expert is a New York Times bestselling author, researcher, and international lecturer. Our second guest has one of the biggest growing podcasts of the year and is taking over social media with life-changing tips and resources. And our third guest sold over 35 million copies of their book worldwide. And this was the first in-person interview since they were on Oprah in 2007. And again, we're going to break down what these 3 experts have to say and how you can start harnessing the power of your thoughts to break free from your negativity to attract more in your life. In this first segment, we have someone who has helped many people break free from negative thought patterns, heal, and help them thrive in their life. His name is Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he shares his insights on the importance of shifting your focus from fear and competition to states of creativity, abundance, and transforming how you approach challenges and opportunities in your life. So let's go ahead and dive into this first moment.
And what happens if we try to create from survival emotions?
It just takes a long time. You'll just force it.
Little steps at a time.
You'll force it. Yeah. You'll force it. You'll fight for it. You'll compete for it. You'll manipulate. You'll cheat. You'll lie. You'll do anything to get what you want because that's what matter does when it's trying to change matter. And everybody's playing that game, right? Everybody's trying to accumulate the most amount of things.
Right.
Okay, so that's what abundance means to certain people. Get as many things as you can. Okay. You want that? Not a problem. But let's learn the formula of how to create, right?
Yes.
So then you'd have to feel those emotions before the experience occurred. And if you understood that you could dissociate all of your attention from this 3-dimensional reality and have no attention on anything known, and understand that it's the field that creates matter, not matter that emits the field. And if you could get to that place and change your energy with a clear intention and elevated emotion, your heart starts beating in this beautiful rhythm like a drum. We've measured it so many times. And when that occurs, the next thing that happens, the heart informs the brain, it's safe to create now. So the person relaxes into the present moment. And then we see this, like if you took a big sheet, and a blanket and you went like that, the energy of the heart actually informs the brain to move into these beautiful, elegant states of alpha brainwave patterns, coherent alpha. And that's saying, what's the next dream? What is it what's the next opportunity you want to experience? That's a state of creation. So now you have a Wi-Fi signal. You got a coherent brain, that's a directive, that's a signal out, and you got this coherent heart. That's what draws it to us, right? You combine those two, and if there's a vibrational match between your energy and that potential in the quantum field, and you're feeling abundant, and whatever your brain associates with being abundant, that's your call. That's what the creative process is. This is the creative center. The brain, frontal lobe, actually says, what would it be like to be creative or abundant? I don't know what it'd be like to be abundant. Well, then go read a few books on people who actually became abundant and realized it wasn't a glorious process. They failed miserably. They got betrayed. They learned a lot of lessons, but they persevered. And what are the qualities of that person that you could embody? That's the key, right? Because it's not about wealth. It's who you become, right? Because people think it's about their wealth, but it's the becoming process. It's the overcoming.
That attracted that, right?
Of course. So then you got to turn the battleship around, because most people say, I can't feel grateful for my wealth because it hasn't happened yet. That's the hypnosis. Waiting for the experience to happen to feel grateful. Well, that's Newtonian, that's 3-dimensional reality, that's cause and effect. The quantum, you got to feel it in order for you to experience it. Okay, so this heart becomes like an amplifier, and it sends that signal out, and that frequency can carry the thought of your abundance. Suffering cannot carry the thought of your abundance. Lack cannot carry the thought of your abundance. It's a different frequency, right? We feel different feelings like suffering. We think different thoughts, right? So people can say, I'm abundant all they want, but that thought is never making it to the body because it's stopping at the brainstem, because the body's saying, I'm miserable, I'm unhappy, I'm in lack, right? So the affirmation doesn't work, right? Okay, so let's go one step further.
Yes.
So if you practice this and you actually understood, well, we teach this pretty well, but if you learned it just like learning how to play handball or learning how to hit a golf ball, learning how to dance a salsa, if you just practiced the form and you got really good at it, if you were doing it properly then, what would be the outcome? The experiment of being abundant would be that you would have to feel that feeling. It's so good at doing it with your eyes closed. You got to do it with your eyes open. Now, why? Because if you're feeling the feelings of your emotions, of your future, you're no longer looking for them.
Because you're in the future now.
Your body is so objective that it's believing it's living in that reality where you are abundant. And as long as you feel that emotion, you're not separate from it any longer. You're no longer in lack. You're no longer looking for it to occur. Say, why hasn't it happened yet? If you're feeling abundant, why would you look? Right? You wouldn't. So then our job then is to be able to maintain that modified state of mind and body. So does that mean like you should check your bank account tomorrow and see if there's $500,000 in it? No. You keep tuning into that potential, and then here come the synchronicities.
Yes.
What's that? That's feedback in your environment. It's the universe saying, hey, Lewis, whatever you're doing, all of a sudden, we are starting to create, right? And I think it's so important for people to remember that they're the creators of their lives instead of the victim of their lives, right? So the victim is saying, I'm feeling this way because that person or that circumstance or I don't have any money is causing me to feel this way. That's my relationship with money. What that really means is I'm using my lack to reaffirm my dependency, my addiction, my conditioning. That's my relationship with money, is that I put my attention on money because I don't have it. So their relationship with money is, of course, built on lack. And so when they don't have it, they feel bad. And what they're really saying is my outer environment, my reality is actually controlling the way I feel and the way I think. So, Lewis, why are you in a good mood today? Things are going good. Why in a bad mood? Things are going bad today. So this unconscious program of victimization is saying that we're allowing our environment to influence the way we feel and the way we think. Isn't that what victimization is? And the stronger the emotion we have to our lack, the more we put our attention on the fact that we don't have it, right?
Yes.
So then the person has forgotten that they're creating reality because what they're creating is lack. And they're creating more of it. And then they try harder, and they force harder, and they control more.
And they're more exhausted, and their body's tired.
And they're breaking down, right. So the experiment then is, let's try it another way. Let's create from the field instead of from matter. Get a coherent heart, get a coherent brain, relax in the heart, and energy moves right into the brain. We've measured this 1,000 times. And all of a sudden, the person moves into these beautiful, elegant brainwave states where they're super creative, right? So the longer you're conscious of that energy, the more you draw that future to you. So then, what does the synchronicity mean? It means whatever you're doing inside of you is producing that effect outside of you. Pay attention to what you did.
Keep doing
and do
more
it again.
Yeah.
So generate a little bit more abundance. Just do it for an experiment. Now, when the synchronicity happens, do you think you feel suffering or do you think you feel a little excitement? You feel inspired, right? So then that synchronicity is saying, use this energy, use this feeling. It should be easier for you to feel this now and go back and do it again. Keep the experiment going. Then here comes the promotion. Here comes the email. Here comes the person you meet at the right time.
Yes.
Right? Whoa, we have something happening here, and then that becomes the momentum, right? So then we generate abundance. That's how we do it. And the relationship,
it doesn't just happen by accident. We generate it.
We generate abundance, right? So then, if you have an hour meditation where you're tuning into your abundant future, but then you're spending the other 15 hours a day in lack, don't expect anything to change. You defaulted. You're back to the old energy. And if you say it's that person or that circumstance or that bank account, I'm going to say you're back to the unconscious program of being a victim, right? So then let's go a step further. If your personality creates your personal reality, and it does, and your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel, then the present personality who's listening to this podcast has created the present personal reality called their life. Nothing big there. Which means if you want to change your personal reality, you're going to have to change your personality.
Right.
Nothing changes in your life until you change, right? So then 95% of who we are is on autopilot, right? It's a programmed thoughts, hardwired thoughts, beliefs, perceptions, unconscious habits and behaviors, and really, really emotional responses that tend to be really knee-jerk and automatic, right? So if 95% of who we are is a set of unconscious programs, then the first step to change is becoming conscious of those unconscious thoughts. Now, people think when they sit down to do the work and make their change that they're doing something wrong. No, those thoughts have to come up. I'm not worthy, it's never going to work. But the person who's truly persevering towards their abundance realizes just because they have that thought doesn't mean it's true. They're curious on what's on the other side of that thought. Well, that's just the thought, right? Mm-hmm. And nerve cells that no longer fire together no longer wire together. So you keep moving past that thought, it has less and less power over you, right? Now you have power over it, or better yet, you're using your brain in the proper way instead of being a victim to your brain, sure. Right? If you complain about money, if you judge people who have it, if you rush when you're in lack, if you cheat when you don't have what you need, an abundant person doesn't do that. You got to look at that and say, I got to break these habits. Yes. Oh my God, if I truly want to be abundant, I can't act this way. Now here's the big one. If I truly want to be a new personality that's in a new personal reality, I can't take lack with me. I can't take unworthiness. I can't take a story that goes along with it with my parents or my grandparents or my ex or whatever. That story has to end, right? I mean, if not now, when, right?
How do people end those stories?
Well, of course. Well, how many times do we have to forget until we stop forgetting and start remembering?
Right.
That's the game, right? Mm-hmm. That's the game called change. How many times do we have to go unconscious and default to that old personality when we catch ourselves and stop doing that and get conscious? That's the moment of change. Mm-hmm. So the problem is that most people wake up in the morning and they think, let me think of my problems, right? The brain is a record of the past, right? So they think about their problems. They don't have enough money, and those problems are usually connected to certain people at certain places with certain objects and certain things.
What didn't work out, or who screwed me over.
So the moment they wake up, the moment they remember those problems, they're thinking in the past. So now they're firing and wiring the memory. They're keeping the memory of the past alive in their mind. The problem is, every one of those memories has an emotion associated with it because we've experienced it. So when they feel the lack, when they feel the unhappiness, when they feel the anxiety, now the body's in the past. Thoughts being the language of the brain, feelings being the language of the body, how we think and how we feel creates our state of being. But the conditioning process starts because conditioning only needs a thought and a feeling, a memory or an image and an emotion, and a stimulus and a response, and you're conditioning your body to become the mind of that emotion. And now the memory's not in the brain. Now the memory's buried subconsciously in the body, and the body becomes the mind of that emotion. So the body is living in lack, and it's believing.
Is that through the nervous system, or is that through
neurochemical
the cells, everything?
So the body's so objective that it does not know the difference between the real life experience that's creating the lack and the emotion that you're creating by thought alone called lack. The body's believing it's living the same past experience every day. Why? Because the end product of an experience is an emotion. Well, if your life is changing, but you're still feeling lack, don't expect anything that you won't even see it. You'll walk right past it. You're viewing your life through the lens of the past. Okay, so then the person realizes that all their friends are making money and they're doing stuff, and they're like, wow, I'm really feeling lack now. So then when it no longer becomes about your abundance and it becomes about your change, that's a valuable moment. When it's no longer about your healing, but it's about your change. I paid attention to a lot of people in the last couple of years tell their story. The people who heal in this work from cancers and all kinds of chronic health conditions and Parkinson's and strokes and paralysis and all kinds of things, rare genetic disorders. It never was about, when they've really got in the game, it was never about their healing. It was about, what do I need to change in order to heal? When the game goes like that, so then the person who's feeling lack, on some level or another, it's not just in the mind, it's in the body, right?
So let me hear you say that again. When someone's looking for abundance, it's never about the abundance. It's about the change they need to make for healing.
No, I'm using healing as an example.
Yes.
But let's use abundance as an example. When you understand that you cannot get abundant, when it's no longer about the game called abundance, it's about the game called change. Mm-hmm. What do I need to change? The more I change, the more I'll be abundant.
Yes.
So then it's no longer about how come it hasn't happened? That's the old personality, separate from the experience, still in lack, asking that question.
Which is creating your current reality.
Which is reaffirming it, because that's the lens you're perceiving it through. Okay. Mm-hmm. So
we should be focusing more on what we need to change every moment as opposed to the abundance or the healing.
Well, the word meditation means to become familiar with. Sit with yourself long enough and not turn on your cell phone, not scroll through your social media, and do no TikTok, no emails, none of that stuff. Don't just sit and close your eyes and watch the thoughts that come up. That's the exact reason why you're not abundant. Watch what you want to do when you're feeling lack, to take away the lack, and there's always something you would do to take it away. But sit with the lack and be curious on what's on the other side of it, right? Mm-hmm. Because the body's programmed into lack now subconsciously, right? So the emotion of lack drives our thoughts and drives our behaviors. So it makes sense then that if an emotion is a record of the past, then we're doing things habitually from the past. Mm-hmm. We're thinking in the past, right? So lower the volume to the emotion every time you notice lack comes up. And just like breaking any addiction, there's going to be cravings, right? So the body's going, hey, Lewis, it's been about 2 hours since
you're so used to doing this.
Yeah,
thing.
You've been thinking lacking thoughts about 150,000 times a day, and you're just going to stop now. The body's going to start influencing the mind and saying, it's not going to work. You're a loser. It didn't work before. It's too hard. Everybody else. That's why
it's so hard for people to lose weight or get in shape, because you might try it for a few days and then the cravings, or I'm tired and I want to go default back into the old personality.
Right. Because why? Because the body, which has been conditioned, the mind, the body is the unconscious mind. So the body's got used to the familiar feeling. Even they don't even know it's lack. It's just how they feel. It's not guilt. So so let me finish. So the hardest part about all of this is making a different choice. And the moment you decide to make a different choice, get ready, it's going to feel uncomfortable.
Right.
It's going to feel unfamiliar. Your body's all of a sudden saying, hey, Lewis, why don't you start thinking those same exact thoughts, do the same things, make the same choices, demonstrate the same behaviors, have the same experiences, so you could feel that feeling of lack, complain again to somebody, call somebody up and say how miserable your life is, right? And that's the known, right? So the body is always influencing the mind to return back to the familiar territory.
The default.
The default, okay. All right, so now the person says, okay, what thoughts do I not want? What would an abundant person think this way? The people in our work that have created, I had a guy come to our event. I love this guy. He healed himself. He tried to take his life 3 times. When he told me that when he came to our work, he didn't have $2 to rub together. He's worth hundreds of millions of dollars now. And just keeps giving it away.
Wow.
His lesson wasn't the wealth. It was who he became. So it's the overcoming process that is the becoming process. Right?
Who did he become in that journey?
Exactly. He had to get beyond all of those thoughts of his past, all the mistakes he made, all the things he did wrong, all the money he owed there, all of that. That was he just had to no longer be that person any longer. But he did say, how would a wealthy person live? And when he created his wealth, what do you think the first thing he did?
Started giving?
Giving it away. Why? Because an abundant person doesn't have any lack. And he knows how to create more of it. And he's in the experiment. Well, what would happen if I keep giving it away? He keeps getting more. That's a good experiment to have, because he is actually living in that abundant state. He also had tremendous healings taking place, because when you heal your heart, you heal your mind. I mean, it's just the way it is. We saw it so many times, right? So he healed his heart. He got an upgrade. He got an upgrade, right? Yeah. So then the next fundamental question is, how would an abundant person think? Write it down, dude, and fire and wire those thoughts in your brain and install the hardware. Keep doing it with attention and intention. It becomes the new voice in your head. It becomes a software program. Then say, okay, how am I going to be in my life today? What would an abundant person, how would they behave? And before you reach for your cell phone and start scrolling through your social media, close your eyes and rehearse in your mind how that person would walk, how they would breathe, how they would smile, how they would greet people, how they would be on Zoom calls, how would they be in traffic, how would they be at dinner. And the act of closing your eyes and mentally rehearsing the act, if you're truly present, the brain does not know the difference between the real-life experience and what you're imagining. In fact, just a little bit of time, you start to install the neurological hardware to look like you already did it. Now the brain is no longer a record of the past. It's primed for the future. Keep doing it. Keep rehearsing. No different than playing an instrument. No different than learning how to dance. No different than learning how to act or play a sport. Everybody's always rehearsing, right? The rehearsal process changes the brain to look like you've already done it. You've already experienced it. Now, what's the essential part of that? The hardware is in place. Now all you got to do is step into the footprint. You keep doing it, it becomes a software program. You start acting like an abundant person. Everything changes. Your energy changes, your mood changes, the way you walk, the way you breathe, your posture changes. You're out of the known, right?
Yes.
You got to condition the body now emotionally into the future. Can't open your eyes in the morning until you are feeling worthy to receive. And if you can't feel worthy to receive, then if not now, when? If it takes you 2 hours to get there, ask me if it's worth 30 years of running, trying to get what you need matter to matter. Okay, so then the person who wrestles with their lack, they're out of the bleachers and they're on the playing field. Now, here's what we learned. Let's go back to beliefs now. So remember, a belief is just a thought you keep thinking over and over again. A belief is something that you keep thinking enough times that you hardwired in your brain and it becomes an automatic program. And we have beliefs about all kinds of things, money, relationships, God, whatever it is. It's all based on what we've been told or our past experiences, right? The boundaries of those beliefs are our emotions, right? So let's just say you got betrayed or somebody abused you or your father told you that money was bad and there's never enough of it or whatever. That's a story, okay? But somehow it left an impression on you. Remember that event very clearly, and that's kind of rooted in who you are, right? Okay, so that emotion then is the boundary of our belief, okay? So how you think and how you feel creates your state of being. If you take a thought and a feeling, 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 that's called an attitude. A series of good thoughts with a series of good feelings. You say, I have a good attitude today. You have a series of negative thoughts that are connected to a series of negative feelings. You say, I have a bad attitude today. So attitudes are just shortened states of being. Good attitude in the morning, bad attitude in the afternoon. If you take an attitude, and you keep those up, and you string attitudes together, you create what's called a belief. And a belief is just an extended state of being. So if you keep thinking the same thought, you keep hardwiring it in the brain, you keep feeling the same feeling, you keep conditioning in your body, the redundancy of that cycle over and over again conditions the body to subconsciously become the mind of that belief. And all beliefs are subconscious states of being. Okay. Take a belief, and you string them together. You form what's called a perception. And perceptions are just such extended states of being that we're unconscious. And so then we edit out reality. In fact, most people don't see things the way they are. They see things the way they are, right? And people are always filling in reality unconsciously based on their memory. They could be married to a person for 40 years and they don't see the person, they see the memory of the person, right? And there's research to prove this, okay? So how do we change a belief or perception about ourselves for our lives, okay? We've studied this. Okay, let's just say that lack is ingrained in there. You got the story, you lived on the streets, you lost everything, you got betrayed, your business partner took everything, took your wife, you got the story in the half, okay? Okay, you got to start telling a new story of the future, right? You got to believe in that future more than you have to believe in the past. So how do you do that? You only believe in the past when you feel the emotions of the past. The only time you're going to believe in the future is when you feel the emotions of the future, right? Okay? So in order for us to change a belief or perception about ourselves and our lives, we have to make a decision with such firm intention that the amplitude of that decision carries a level of energy that's greater than the hardwired programs in your brain and the emotional conditioning in your body. And your body literally has to respond to your mind. That the choice that you're making to change in that moment becomes a moment in time that you never forget. And here's the key.
Physically.
Physically. The stronger the emotion you feel when you make that choice, the more you'll remember the decision. Okay, so then how do we downregulate that old belief? If the trauma created an emotional quotient of 6 or 7, then your decision to change your beliefs got to be a 9.
Right.
And you got to come out of your resting state, and that moment has to define you. You could say, I know exactly where I was, the time of day it was, who I was with, when I made my mind up to change, right? Because you created a long-term memory. Long-term memories are created from strong emotion.
Yes.
Right? But if the amplitude of that emotion is greater than the betrayal, boom, the body starts responding to the mind, and you're actually giving your body a taste of the future emotionally. So you brand your...
What's possible.
No, your body's actually getting a taste of that future event.
It's experiencing the future now.
Exactly. Big explosion in the quantum field. Big explosion. So the side effect of that is if you combine that clear intention with that elevated emotion, you're basically remembering your future, and it looks no different than remembering your past. Think neurologically within the circuits of that memory and feel within the emotions of that new belief, and watch your life begin to change, because nothing changes in our life that we change. And when we change our energy, we change our life. So now the experiment all of a sudden is no longer based on it being hard or trying or wishing or wanting or hoping. That's what we do when we're in lack or separation. It's about change. So then when we finally realize, in order for us to become abundant, we have to overcome the old personality. And that's 95% of who we are, right?
Yes.
So then the side effect of the beginning of this process is a lot of discomfort. It is a lot of discomfort because you're stepping outside the known into the unknown, and now you can't predict.
It's scary.
No,
it's
you'd rather hold on to your lack.
The pain,
and
the suffering.
Rather tell the story of that. At least it makes you feel something that's familiar. When you step outside and you're saying, I'm not going to complain about money any longer. I'm not going to complain about I don't have any. I'm not going to judge other people who do. I'm not going to say I can. I'm not worthy. It's never going to work. All those things got to go. I'm not going to feel lack. I'm not going to feel unworthy. I'm not going to feel separation. I'm not going to feel resentment. These are the things that are keeping my reality the same. Now it's no longer about abundance, about who you become. So the overcoming process becomes the becoming process. And so many people come to this work. They want abundance. They want healing. They want a new relationship. They want a new career. They want the mystical, but really they want wholeness. And
they want healing. They want peace.
They want wholeness.
Because they feel unwhole.
Well, when you're in lack or you're in separation, you're not whole. Imagine feeling so much wholeness that's impossible to want. That's what we're working on with people. Then you can really enjoy a sunset. Then you can really enjoy a meal. Then you can really enjoy your friends. Then you can. I talk to people that are very abundant. I mean, in the billions abundant, and so many of them say we are in misery.
They're not whole.
We're in agony because they can't enjoy life anymore. That's what they want. I mean, people want abundance to be able to enjoy life. They want to be able to do whatever they want with whoever they want as many times as they want, wherever they want. That's freedom, right? Or people want abundance. The sponsoring thought is really they want freedom, right? Or whatever their sponsoring thought would be, right? So then creating from the field instead of from matter to shorten the distance between cause and effect requires that clear intention with that elevated emotion, coherent brain and coherent heart. Tune into that energy and feel it with your brain and your heart. I mean, we have plenty of ways to do that. Examine your personality and examine your personal reality. Change your personality, change your personal reality. Don't make it be about abundance. Make it about becoming abundant by overcoming the person who's not abundant. The person who heals themselves from a health condition, who's no longer thinking the same way, no longer acting the same way, no longer feeling the same way. You ask them where that disease is when they stand on the stage in front of 1,500 people or 3,000 people, and that's a 4-minute mile. Everybody's leaning in. That's truth right on the stage. They say, where is that? Where is the disease? Oh, it lives in the old person.
Wow.
I'm somebody else. That's not even the story. That's not even who I am any longer. So Lo and behold, when we do our research, and people do this, in 7 days of going all in, at the end of 7 days, their body looks like, genetically, with all the metabolites, that they're literally in a different environment. Here's the weird part. They're in a ballroom.
Right.
There's not a lot happening in a ballroom.
Right.
What's happening in a ballroom? I've been to thousands of ballrooms.
Yeah.
But the environment somehow looks like they're living in a very prosperous, very healthy, very loving, nurturing, very whole environment. Why? Because they were signaling genes ahead of the environment. And if the environment signals the gene, okay, that's epigenetics. The end product of the experience in the environment is an emotion. If you feel the emotion before the experience, you're signaling the gene ahead of the environment. And genes make proteins. And proteins are responsible for the structure and the function of your body.
Look at Jack, by the way. I like that. Look at the muscle over here.
The expression of proteins is the expression of life. So you actually become abundant. You actually become that person. And people who are truly abundant have no problem with losing things.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on the biggest takeaway for you in this moment with Dr. Joe Dispenza. But for me, the big takeaway is first being aware of the patterns and feelings of living in survival mode and lack so that you can then start to shift them. Because so many people, based on how we think, what we say, our body language, our energy, how we react and respond to situations in life, we are projecting lack. We are projecting survival, not enough, needing more, and that projection creates more of that in reality. And when we can become aware of our words, our language, our energy, our body language, the conversations we're having, the environments we put ourselves in that might attract more lack and this feeling of survival mode, when we can be aware of it first, then we can start to shift and we can get the information on how to shift. Again, Dr. Joe has shared a lot of these strategies in long interviews that we've done. We'll have it linked below where you can learn more on how to shift this as well. But let me know in the comments below your biggest takeaway from that segment with Dr. Joe Dispenza. In this second moment, we're building on these transformational ideas from Dr. Joe to turn our attention to practical steps we can all take in our daily lives. Mel Robbins is taking over the world with her show and her social media content. She takes us through her key strategies for attracting the life we desire, focusing on visualization and resilience. And she talks about the importance of visualizing the process and challenges, not just the end result. And I really like this approach to really make sure that we enhance motivation and resilience. So let's go ahead and dive into this moment.
What's your thoughts about the law of attraction, on how to apply it the right way? Or
I think the law of attraction and manifesting are the same thing. So law of attraction, for everybody who has not read The Secret, is simply your thoughts become things. And it's true. We've talked all about how when you have a negative self-talk, it tends to draw more of that to you. I think about it like lint in a dryer. Once negative stuff starts collecting, it collects a lot more. We can also talk about your brain filter, something called the reticular activity system, and how it is a live network that filters the brain. We'll dig into that deeper, but let's do surface level right now, manifesting law of attraction. So here's what everybody gets wrong about manifesting. Everybody, at least kind of in the mass market, what you're trained to think about when you think about manifesting is vision boards. And when you hear the word vision boards, you think about the big stuff. Should you have big dreams? Of course you should. Should you dream of building a mansion on the ocean if that's your thing? Yes. Should you dream of the log cabin? Yes. If you want a Lamborghini or the new Ford Bronco, should you? Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. If you want the family, if you want the body, should you think about? Yeah, absolutely. Here's where everybody goes wrong. You dream about the end. You make this gorgeous collage of all this stuff that has nothing to do with your current life. That literally, as you're sitting in your studio apartment with the cat box that hasn't been changed in 2 weeks.
No food in the fridge.
No food in the fridge. And you're looking for a job and you're staring at a mansion going, someday, it's going to make you feel like a loser.
Yeah.
Because the gap between where you are and where you want to go, it seems insurmountable. And so what happens, based on the research, is when you only visualize the end game, Lewis, it's demotivating. At first, it's really fun to have a bottle of wine and make your collage. I'm going to visualize. I'm going to slap this up. There's my vision board. It's fabulous. Law of attraction, baby. Come on. I'm going to think about it. It's going to come to me. Okay, I've been doing this for 2 days. I'm still in this apartment with the cat box that needs to be changed. The way to visualize properly is to visualize the bridge between where you are and where you need to go.
The bridge.
Yes, and particularly the horrible stuff. So let's use your example of the marathon. The vision board would be Lewis crossing.
With the arms up at the medal.
The arms up at the
Yes.
medal. Exactly.
High fives. Yeah,
High fives.
I did it.
Yes, I did it. Exactly. That will not help you. Because when you hit mile 13 on the actual race and it is sleeting rain.
You're saying, why am I doing this?
Yes, and it feels nothing like that thing on your vision board. You're going to start a negative dialogue. I can't do this. My knees hurt. This is not what I thought it was going to be. I'm not ready for this. I didn't train for this. I'm running New York. I trained in LA. Are you running in New York?
LA.
Okay, good. Well, then at least you trained in the right weather.
Yeah.
So on and on and on, and you are going to tank yourself. What you do by visualizing the bridge is you train your nervous system and your mind to do the hard work. So you should visualize not crossing the finish line, but what is it like to be at mile 12 when your batteries run out on your earbuds?
Yeah.
No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
And you keep going. What's it like when your shoelace breaks and now your heel is lifting and you're starting to get a blood blister at mile 17? What's it feel like when you wake up and it is pouring rain and you visualize yourself running anyway? That way, when you visualize the work, you are preparing your body for it so you're not resistant to it when it comes.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
I think it's great. It's a story that I had George St. Pierre, who's one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time. He said that he always puts himself in the most uncomfortable situations in practice leading up to the fight. The hardest situations to get himself out of. When his arms are behind his back and he's face against the mat and in between the fence and he's just getting punched in the face. He's like, how do I get out of this?
Right.
He's like, visualize that and seeing how can I get through this?
Yeah, exactly.
When it seems like I just want to tap out.
Yes.
Instead of tapping out, what's the process for figuring out how to get through it?
Yeah.
To then raise my hand at the end victorious.
Totally. And so you are literally building up almost like this resilience and this muscle inside of you to do the work to get the thing. So yeah, create the vision board, but make sure in addition to crossing the finish line, you have somebody running in the rain.
Right.
You have somebody you have an alarm clock that says 5:13. You have, these images that show the stuff that you don't want to do. So like for people who want to launch a business, for example, like a lot of people that I'm sure follow both of us are dying to launch a business or interested in being an influencer, social media, or making money online. And what you visualize are the checks, or you visualize the money you're going to make, or you visualize how cool it's going to be when you're a lifestyle entrepreneur, whatever the hell it is. Don't do that. Visualize working a day job and telling your friends that you're not going to go out tonight because you're working on something.
Yeah.
Visualize making cold calls and being told no. Visualize not going to that party because you're staying in on a Saturday and not going to the barbecue because you're putting in the work.
Yeah.
Visualize sitting at a seminar and learning from other people. Visualize watching YouTube videos. Visualize your first ever course failing miserably.
Right.
Like, literally, that's the sort of thing that you want to visualize yourself doing and pushing through. Because that's going to help you do the work.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
I think that's great. Yeah, visualizing. So in order to manifest what you want, don't just visualize the good things happening. Visualize the bridge, all the things it's going to take to get
Yes,
there.
and the hard parts of the bridge. Because then you're ready for it. Then you're like, I didn't expect this to be this hard. I mean, it's still going to be hard.
Right.
But you're less likely to quit.
Yes. So what have you done in the last 5 years to help you manifest after the first book? Were you doing this as well, or kind of once you get on a rhythm and build momentum, does it become easier to manifest, in your opinion?
Well, so I am constantly training my mind to work for me. And there's this little trick that I talk about in the book that is all sort of the beginning of having a high five attitude. And a high five attitude is the ability to catch yourself when you're going mentally low and to flip yourself back up into a high five attitude.
Okay.
The thing that I know to be true is that you cannot control the things around you. You can't control what's going to happen. You can't even control how your nervous system might respond or what thoughts might pop into your head. but you can always choose what you do next and what you make it mean, right? And so that's where all the power is.
Yes.
And so I do this thing where this is, again, it's going to sound so dumb, but it's a way for me to introduce you to the power that your mind has to change in real time.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about negative self-talk. And part of the reason why negative self-talk is so crippling is not only because you've repeated it for so long and now it's a pattern, but it's also because you have a filter on your brain called the reticular activity system, okay? This puppy is the keys to everything. And it's remarkable that most of us have never heard of it. We've experienced it, but we don't know how to use it to our advantage. So first, let me tell you what the RAS does. Then I'm going to give you an example of when you've experienced it in your life. And then I'm going to explain to you how to use it to get what you want in life. This is like the super attractor manifesting, and it also works for interrupting negative self-talk. Like it's going to supercharge all the work you're doing with the mirror and interrupting thoughts. So first, let's talk about the RAS. So the RAS, imagine a hairnet on your brain, only it's like electric, meaning it's alive, okay? Now, the RAS has one job, and the job is block out 99% of what's going on and let in 1% of what's going on. Our brains at this moment in history are having to process about 34 days worth of cell phone data in one day.
Crazy.
It's crazy. And so your RAS has a monster job. It's like a bouncer at a bar. You're not coming in, you can come in. And you've experienced this. So have you ever shopped for a car?
Yes.
Okay, so what's the last car you bought?
Tesla.
Oh, Tesla. Oh, fancy. Lewis House. I like that.
Well, I never had a nice car until 3 years ago. I had a $4,000 car for 5 years before that.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what? I have no Bluetooth. It's like, I just needed an upgrade.
No, I love it.
It was a 1991.
Dude, you deserve it.
I had a 1991 Cadillac.
it.
And I was like, okay,
You deserve
buy
it.
a car. So I bought a Tesla, yeah.
Right. And so before you thought about buying a Tesla, you drive down the road, you don't really think about it. The second you're like, I think I'm interested in a Tesla, what do you see everywhere?
Teslas.
Yes, everywhere.
Everywhere.
My husband just bought a pickup truck. I'd never even noticed them. Now I'm like, there are baby blue pickup trucks everywhere. What is going on? That's the bouncer in your brain. And let me tell you how this works. There are only 4 things that automatically get through the bouncer in your brain, the RAS. Number 1, your name. So you've experienced being in a crowded place and somebody's like, you think you hear Lewis and you're like, somebody call my name? That was the bouncer in your brain. The second thing that always gets let in is any threat to your safety. So there are loud noises all the time, but only ones in close proximity make you go like this. That was the bouncer in your brain letting it in.
Okay.
The third thing that gets let in is when you sense that your partner is interested in sex with you or somebody else. You're like, Chris, who are you looking at? Stop looking at her. You know what I'm saying? You kind of pick up on the signals. That's the bouncer in your brain. And the fourth one, and this is the $1 billion thing that everybody needs to know. The bouncer in your brain lets in whatever you think is important to you. So when you get intentional about telling your brain what's important to you, like, I'm interested in a Tesla, your brain's literally like, let all the Teslas in. Come on in. Here's the downside to this. If you have told yourself that you are a bad person for the last 10 years, guess what your brain thinks is important? Examples that mean you're a bad person.
Right.
So I'm going to give you a very specific example. So I personally don't think I'm a bad person. I don't think I'm perfect, but I know I do my best. I mean well. I don't have that story about myself at all. I used to, but I don't. And let's say I oversleep and I miss the dentist. I miss the dentist appointment. I'm like, I got to pay the $25. I got to reschedule that thing. That kind of blows. That's all I think. And then I go on. My daughter, who constantly beats herself up and says she's a bad person, this is a real example, by the way. She oversleeps, misses a dentist appointment, and it becomes, see, I always screw everything up. I'm always messing things up. Like everything that gets let in confirms that you're a bad person.
She finds proof and evidence.
Yes, that's the bouncer in your mind. I'm here to tell you that when you get intentional about what you want to think about yourself, it changes in real time what your brain lets in and what it doesn't.
Yeah. That
helps you with the other things that you're doing. The high five in the mirror, the I'm not thinking about that, the pathetic mantra. Hey, just because I missed the dentist appointment doesn't mean I'm a bad person.
Yeah.
I'm doing the best I can here. Give myself a break.
Right.
High five. You know what I'm saying? Shake it off. Get back in there. It's true, right?
Right.
Because it's these little things. Somebody cuts you off. Somebody reaches for the last thing of cereal that you wanted to buy at the grocery store. You think it's like a sign that the world's out to get you. This is all your story and your mind skewing the world to prove all of the stuff you keep repeating. And the only way to get a handle on it is to start acting the opposite. Like high five yourself, even though you don't feel like it. Interrupt the crap that you keep saying. Put your hands on your heart and settle your body down.
Yeah.
All of these things are things that somebody does when they care about themselves, when they think they deserve to be treated with kindness, when they think they deserve support, and when they realize they need it. And when you start to build yourself back up, you'll show up very differently in other relationships.
Absolutely.
If you tolerate this kind of treatment from yourself, you'll tolerate it from other people. It does begin with you.
And when you create boundaries and you don't abandon yourself, then you won't abandon yourself with other people either. You won't let them cross the boundaries.
Correct. Like if you stand in front of the mirror every single morning and you're like, I look like crap, I am not good enough, I'm unhappy with my life, and then you step into a relationship and somebody leaves you on red and they ghost you for 3 days, like you come to expect that because that's how you believe you think you deserve to be treated. When you stand in front of a mirror and you're like, hey, you're awesome. We got this. I got you. I know it's hard. We're going to go do this. Or, hey, this is a big day today. I've got this huge presentation. I am going to destroy this. You get into it. You're excited. Like then you're creating momentum for yourself.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what? You're going to stand there and be like, oh my God, I'm going to screw this up. I'm not prepared. Like it's like the negative morning routine. Right. It leads to negative actions.
Absolutely.
So this training thing, training your RES. So here's what I want you to do. Starting tomorrow, after you wake up and make your bed and kind of settle your nervous system and high five yourself after setting your intention. So now you're like sending yourself into your morning routine in a totally different way with a calm down nervous system, an intention, and this boost of feeling supported and loved and celebrated. I want you to find one naturally occurring heart shape as you go through your day.
I saw this in your book.
Yeah. It could be a stone. It could be a leaf on the ground. It could be a cloud shape. It could be a coffee stain. It could be an oil stain on the floor of a garage. It could be a spot on a dog walking by. I want you to tell your mind, let's find a heart. Let's see if we can find a heart. And something weird's going to happen. You're going to see something. And then I want you to literally supersize what's going on in your brain. And what you do is when you see the heart, I want you to then take a moment and literally congratulate yourself, like feel like, oh my God, I found it. Like whatever you believe in, God, the universe, like greater connection, you put that there for me and I found it. And I want you to feel this kind of wave of, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I just saw a heart. And then that positive thing, remember how I told you, the bouncer in your brain pays attention to what's important to you. When you get your nervous system celebratory involved, that makes your brain really pay attention. Just like trauma makes your brain pay attention.
It does.
So you supercharge the experience by celebrating it and then look for another one around. I see hearts all day long.
Yeah.
And what happens when you start to play this game is you will start to realize you are walking by an entirely different world every single day because you're not looking for it. There are opportunities, there are signs, there are mile markers on your path that you are literally tuning out.
Yes.
And we can all sit in this moment, Lewis, and look back and see how the dots of our life connect us here. The coolest thing about practicing the high five habit, this training of finding hearts and the high five attitude, is that you start to ground yourself in the idea that this too is a dot on the map of your life. And it is leading you somewhere incredible. Mm-hmm. And when you start to have that kind of high five attitude, that there are signs, whether it's the little hearts that you're now seeing, or it's your ability to catch guilt or people pleasing or insecurity or the negative self-talk and be like, nope, not going down, not thinking about that, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's get that high five attitude back. I can do this. I can have my own back. It's not going to be perfect, but I can keep going.
And you were just talking about how you never truly learned how to love yourself in your own skin. And you started this daily ritual, this habit of high-fiving yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
You've lived a pretty full life right now, but you feel like really you've never truly learned how to love yourself, but now you feel like you know how to?
Yes, I do.
Why did you not know how to love yourself in the first place?
Oh, that's a big question. I think that most of us are not taught how to love ourselves just for being alive.
For existing.
For existing, thank you.
It's always like we have to accomplish something.
Correct.
Then we can get love.
Yes, it's the same thing with happiness. Like you're chasing it and you think that if you achieve something, you're going to get it. And you also, or at least I, felt the most loved when I was little, when I was achieving something. Mm-hmm. And, I think that most parents kind of fall into this camp. And it's really interesting to write a book about this and sort of trace back how we go from being little teeny babies that would crawl up to a mirror and put our hands up and kiss ourselves and love the sight of ourselves, to being a self-loathing adult that stands in front of a mirror and either ignores or criticizes your very existence. And I believe that a lot of this has to do with the fact that so much of what you learn as a kid is if you do what I tell you to do, then I'll like you, then I'll love you. And so much of your existence becomes complying, fitting in, not making people angry. You learn how to sort of go in and out of spaces, belong to groups, make sure people like you, and you stop focusing on how you were born, which is looking in a mirror and liking yourself. So my formula for being somebody that was worthy of love is, well, if I'm accomplishing all this stuff, then I'm lovable. If this person over here that I love loves me back, then I'm lovable. If somebody likes me, then I'm lovable. Notice where all the sources of love were coming from? Outside. But I never really understood, how do you learn how to put yourself first? How do you learn how to love yourself, Lewis? How do you do that?
Something I've been doing since I was a young kid in sports was visualizing. And a lot of people talk about visualizing the end result. One of the things I love that Mel talked about is making sure we need to visualize the bridge, not just the destination. Don't just think of, I have this goal and I have this dream and I'm going to visualize it, it's going to happen and it's going to come to me. Yes, that's part of the process. But I remember as an athlete, I would visualize almost every play of the game and play it out. From the moment of getting dressed in the locker room, to rehearsing before the game, to stepping on the field, to the whistle, to every part of the game. I would run my routes in my mind on the field before it happened and visualize us winning at the end as well. It wasn't just, we're going to win and I'm going to manifest and attract this. It was putting myself through the challenging times, through the good times, through how am I going to respond when there are challenges and breakdowns. And I think when you can start to look at life not as, if I just think it and dream it and visualize it, it's all going to come to me perfectly, that's typically not it. There's typically going to be a lot of challenges and obstacles in your way. And if you can put your mind as the bridge and seeing what are these obstacles that I think might happen, where I'm not even sure are going to happen, how am I going to respond to create and manifest the dream that I have, to bring it to me? How am I going to be responding on that bridge to the end result? And again, something I really love in that takeaway. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, what your biggest takeaway is. And again, visualization is powerful, but you got to be thinking about the entire process, not just the end result. Going into this next moment, after gaining insights on how to prepare for and overcome life's challenges, let's explore the foundational principles behind these concepts. Rhonda Byrne, the visionary behind the international bestseller, The Secret, will now clarify how the law of attraction really works and how we can shift our thoughts to manifest success. And I love how Rhonda starts by defining the law of attraction in the simplest terms, because so many people are always talking about the law of attraction, but what actually is it in the simplest terms? She's going to talk about it in a moment, emphasizing that thoughts really shape our reality. Abundance isn't complicated. It doesn't have to be. And as you listen and watch, ask yourself, how does your mindset and the words that you use influence a desired outcome for you? Are you more focused on scarcity over abundance? And how might shifting your perspective, as Rhonda suggests, impact your ability to achieve your dreams?
Can you explain what the law of attraction and manifesting actually is in simple terms before we dive in deeper?
Every human being is a creator, and they are creating their life. And we don't know, for many of us, we did not know that that was the case. And we are creating our life through our thoughts. So it's not that our thoughts are powerful, it's that we are powerful. And so when we focus on a thought and we really hold that focus, that thought will manifest in our life. And so we create our own life through our thoughts and through the mind. Our mind is super, super, super powerful. Yeah.
For good or for worse?
Yes. So, for example, we can talk about what we want and we will manifest that, and so some people, they just see the abundance in the world, that's all that they see. They don't see any lack. They just see abundance, and everything seems to go right for them. Everything falls into place for them. They invest in this and it skyrockets, and they buy a house in this place and that suburb goes crazy. And it's like everything they touch turns to gold. But it's because they have the mindset that is toward wealth and abundance, and they don't have a mindset toward lack. And we have a lack mindset when we say things like, I'm broke, I don't have enough, I don't have enough to pay my bills. And you see, whatever we say is what our life will be. And so if we are saying, I don't have enough money, then by law of attraction, we will not have enough money. We will continue to not have enough money. So what we have to do is we need to speak about what we want. And we need to talk about, for example, if it's money or if it's health, or if we're not feeling really great, then we can talk about what it feels like to be really well instead of talking about not being well, right? Because if we're talking about not being well, we're attracting more of that, more of that, more of that.
Right.
And so that's basically law of attraction. I mean, it is so wonderful and it's so intricate. And the more that it becomes a part of your life, the more you see the little kind of twists and turns.
Synchronicities.
Like for example, if you're saying, I'm so overwhelmed, there's just so much going on at the moment and I can't get on top of things and I'm just overwhelmed. Guess what? Guess what's coming? More overwhelmment.
Right.
More,
So when we speak about things that are frustrating us, that are overwhelming, that are stressing us out, that we're in lack of, when we speak about them, or we're constantly in a loop of thinking of those thoughts and then speaking them to ourselves or to others, what I'm hearing you say is it's going to be a lot harder to get beyond those struggles than to speak in a different way or think in a different way. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
That's the case. And in fact, until we think differently, it won't change.
Really?
It wouldn't matter all the action in the world. All the action in the world will not override a belief that we have. And usually when we speak, for example, if I'm saying, I'm so overwhelmed, so much is happening, and when we're saying I'm so overwhelmed, we believe it, like we're saying it with conviction, right? And so the fact that we believe it, it's not going to change. We're going to keep, more things are going to come, more things are going to come.
And even if someone, let's say they did work hard for a long time and they're feeling this overwhelm, and
all of a sudden they started to make a lot more money. But it's not going to change the overwhelm if they keep thinking it.
That's right.
So more money might come because you spent more time in this world and worked hard.
Right.
And it's just your time to make more.
Right.
But you still might say, well, I'm still overwhelmed. It's not enough.
Yeah.
Right? There's
Exactly.
not enough feeling. Even though you have more,
Yep.
you're still stressed and overwhelmed.
You're still stressed
and that's why you see
and
people
overwhelmed.
with money, some people with money who aren't fulfilled or happy. They're still overwhelmed.
That's right. Yeah.
So how do we shift it so that when more comes our way, we're actually not feeling more overwhelmed, but more in abundance and grateful for that?
So simple. It's so easy. We just have to think about what we want. And do we want to feel overwhelmed? And no, we don't. So what do you want? I want all of the success, but I want it to be effortless and easy. And I want to have lots of spare time. And I want to really be enjoying it. And I want, talk about what you want and talk about what you want until you have what you want.
When people talk about what they don't want consistently, what typically happens?
They get that. That's what they get.
More of what they don't want.
Yeah. They get more of what they don't want. If we could just talk about what we want, our life would be incredible, amazing, spectacular. That's it. Just to talk about. But we have a world that's very beautiful, but orientated towards drama and news is negative. And so, it's challenging for people, but we're all in it together.
Yes.
Because we're all dealing with the mind, and the mind that might be delivering a whole lot of negative thoughts, but not one of us, it's not harder for one or easier for another. We all have this mind that can be like a flatmate and chatter, nonstop chatter, keep going on, So we're all dealing with that, and the mind, it's just a program. It's not an entity. It's just a program. And so I think, because certainly through my experience, through The Secret, you can totally train your mind to be positive so that it is not leaning toward the negative all of the time. And positive is just what you want.
Right.
Right?
When someone is thinking or speaking about what they want, does that mean that they are in lack of it? Or how do they speak about it where it's not from a place of lack?
Right. It's a good question. Because
you know what I mean? If I'm like, I want this, but I don't have it. So how do we speak about it where we're in gratitude and positive around it, as opposed to, I really want this thing, but it's not in my life right now, but I really want it?
Yeah, but the problem is you just cancelled out the manifestation when you said, but it's not in my life right now. Yeah, because if you're saying that, you could say it like this: I would really love to have this. It's a little bit softer, right, than I want, but to manifest something to deliberately manifest, you have to want it, but then you can't have any thoughts of, well, it's not here yet. Because the moment you say it's not here yet, what does law of attraction do? It's not here yet.
And it's constantly not here yet.
Yeah.
So say this again. How do we really manifest something? We put it out there, we speak it or we think it, but then we detach from it?
Yeah. And, here's the thing. We so don't realize our own amazing power that we can just ask for something and it will be given to us.
Now, here's what the criticism online is for The Secret, or the law of attraction, or anyone talking about manifesting.
Okay.
This is what I'll see people, and this is typically people in lack, or maybe people with more of a negative frustration because they don't have what they want. They will say, or these are comments that I'll see, you can't just think something and expect it to appear without putting in the hard work, without action, without consistency. It's just, the world just doesn't work like that. When you see comments like that, or people say this, how would you respond to someone thinking that or saying that?
Well, I don't, I always kind of feel that everybody has the right to think what they want and believe what they want. And I know it's not the case. I remember Lester Levinson said something so incredible. He was a wonderful teacher. He's not alive anymore, but he was very simple in the way that he talked. And he told these students that if you want something, I could lock you up in a room and padlock that room, and you ask for that, and you know you have it, right? You know you have it now, and it will come.
Really?
Yeah, it will come, and nothing in this world can stop it.
What are some examples in your life where you've thought or spoken about something you desired or wanted, and it has come effortlessly? Or maybe an example of people that have written about their success stories. Is there anything you can think of?
Right.
Where maybe for a long time they'd struggled in manifesting or attracting what they wanted, but they started to apply this and really believed it, and that thing came to them.
Right. Well, when I did a book signing, and I got to talk to all of these different people, and every single person at that book signing told me about how their life had completely changed.
Wow.
And what was amazing was, so somebody would say that they were working, I don't know, cleaning a bank or something, and they wanted to have their own sound studio. And that is what they decided to manifest. And they visualized and visualized, and they felt it, and they wouldn't allow any thoughts of doubt to enter their mind. And they are now running one of the top sound studios in LA.
Wow.
But not just that, they met their perfect partner. They bought their dream house. They have, 2 children, or they travel. Every single thing that they wanted, they received. And that was what was so amazing about all of these people when I was signing books. It wasn't just one thing in their life, but these people were amazing. They did gratitude all of the time, or they did affirmations all of the time. And they had a complete change within themselves, to be kind, to other people. And so they would think positively. They were aware when negative thoughts came, and they would stop them in their tracks. And so for me, I think the biggest manifestation for me was The Secret.
Yeah.
Because I was a mother of 2 children in Melbourne, Australia. I had this night where Henny Penny, the sky fell in, everything in my life completely collapsed, right? And I had a huge awakening that night, pardon me, and realized all of this and how incredible we are and what we can do and what mastery we have over the world. And there and then I looked out at the world and I'm like, no one knows this. No one knows this. And so I was determined that I would find a way to take this to the world. I had no idea what shape or form it would take but that night I determined that is what I would do. And so eventually a whole team were gathered. I had a production company at that point, and everybody might think, oh, if you had a production company, it's so easy for you to make a documentary. Aha, but let me tell you, there's a snag. I was $2 million in debt.
Really?
That production company was $2 million in debt, and my accountant told me, you're going to be broke in 30 days and lose everything.
Wow.
Lose everything. And to this day, I don't know how it didn't happen. I do know, because I didn't allow that thought. I only allowed the thought of taking this to the world, and nothing else mattered.
Wow. I'm a big fan of Rhonda. We've had her on a couple of times. I hope we have her on many more times, because every time we get to connect, she just shares, valuable insights on The Secret, the law of attraction, abundance, but also just she's got a lot of life wisdom. So I'm so grateful for her for sharing. I love your thoughts below. For me, It comes down to language and the words you're using. You know, I've heard so many times that when you say, I am, whatever you say afterwards, you start to manifest and create in your life. So if you say, I'm an idiot, I'm no good, I'm dumb, I am whatever, in a negative way, it's hard for your body to believe that you're smart, that you're confident, that you are good enough, that you're lovable. And so just being aware of the words we're using. And if you want to create abundance, but you're using words in lack, in negativity, in scarcity, you're not creating that bridge to get to the place you want to be of abundance. It doesn't mean you have to be overly confident and be lying to yourself and say, I'm super smart when you don't feel smart. It's learning how to use language that builds the belief over time. And when you can do that, I believe you start to be in alignment with your words and the abundance that you want to come your way. But we have to be aware and catch ourselves with these different words, with the language we're using and how we communicate, so that our body will start to believe in an empowering way for us as opposed to a disempowering way. Let me know your thoughts, your biggest takeaway from that segment. And again, all these experts have different strategies and techniques to talk about transforming your mindset and attracting more. We are capable of attracting anything we want in our life. We just need to get out of our own way. And if you found this breakdown useful, or if you want to learn more about these topics, again, make sure to check the links in the description below for the full conversations and episodes. And think about these concepts and questions as you are listening as well. Let me know your big thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this episode and this format of content around rewiring your mind, attracting more. And again, I want to remind you that you are loved, you're worthy, you're a matter. Share a comment below on what you're dealing with, what you're struggling with, your biggest takeaway. We'd love to connect with you, and I'll see you guys next time. And if you can learn how to accept them, then you can learn how to respect them. And a lot of people don't have respect because they haven't created clear boundaries and agreements. They haven't communicated, these are my boundaries, these are my agreements, this is what I want to do moving forward.